Welcome back, guys. With us, we have Z from Serenity Forge Games. Sorry, I've been stumbling over my words a lot today because it's day 3 and I'm exhausted. I'm sure you are too. Z, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, our podcast largely is about like comic books and movies and just kind of pop culture. And I know that video games are a big part of pop culture, but I haven't had the opportunity to really ask anybody that develops games, like, what's the origin of you like getting into the video games industry?
Yeah, I mean, the origin of the how I got into the game industry is a pretty long-winded story, but to keep it short, what happened is that when I was 18 years old, I actually had a really serious illness that caused me to be hospitalized for about 2 years. And during my time in the hospital, it was just such a difficult time, especially at a young age like that. What I could do is essentially just sit in my bed all day and play video games and watch movies. So I started playing all sorts of video games, single player games, online games, all sorts of games. And by playing all these games, I started making friends with people online. Otherwise I wouldn't at all. And I started learning all sorts of things like being a hero inside a game, and I saved the world. And it just gave me a lot of motivation. It made me feel really, really good. And eventually, I would like to say that video games actually saved my life at that time. I started recovering after 2 years and then went back to college. And while I was in college, I kept on thinking about how, these games that I played, like League of Legends or whatever, they weren't designed to save my life. But when I was a kid, they did. What if I begin designing video games with the intention to save other people as well? What kind of good could I do? And that's kind of how I got into video games.
So reading your website, looking at your games, that was the first thing I noticed, that you seem very intentional, like we want to make games that are educational or that speak to certain issues. When you're going into this creative process with like that ethos, how does that inform the design of the game? Like, is it not just like in the writing and the storytelling, but do you also try to create visually, because video games are such a visual medium, something that stimulates like in that kind of positive way? Like, how does that inform just the entire process of the video game creation?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a video game, what it really is it's always going to be a facade, right? It's always going to be what's on the screen, what's in your hands, what are you doing that affects the, what you're seeing. It's a lot like, I mean, it's like sequential art, but you have 60 sequences per second, right? in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of technology behind it as well. I think there's a less known fact about how huge the game industry is. Since 10 years ago, so like back in I think 2005 was the stat that this came out, the ESA did. Video games was 150% the size of the music industry. It's 20 times larger than the film industry. That's just to tell you how huge the video game industry is. Yeah,
that's actually something that I did not know. Like, my level of video game play is, when a new Fallout game comes out, I wait 6 months to buy it so I can get it for $20 and then play it, and then play it until I've literally searched every nook and cranny of the game, which takes me 10 months because I have 4 kids and everything takes me forever. But, the boom in the video games industry, where it's like overtaking like the music industry, the film industry, as far as finances go, leaves a lot of open space for you to create. When you're approaching it, does that give you a lot of freedom as an independent video games creator to just do whatever you want, or do you feel restrictions just from the industry as a whole in what you're creating?
I think the biggest restriction that we face would be the social stigma of being a gamer, right? Like, I mean, the gamer label is just it's always such a negative connotation. Because when anyone, if I tell you, hey, this guy's a gamer, right? What do you think of? Like, obviously, oh yeah, he must be, really unkept, like dirty kid who's in a basement, sitting in front of a TV all day, shooting people in front of their, TV.
Right.
And but the truth is, around 50% of gamers in America are female, right? The average age of a gamer is 32 years old. And 42% of the U.S. population right now, or at least a year ago, played video games every day. 42%. That's a lot. That's like half of the U.S. population plays games every day.
And, I think a lot of people don't think about themselves as gamers every time they open up Candy Crush on their phone and play Candy Crush for 3 hours. That's a video game. I mean, I think a lot of people don't conceptualize their cell phone apps that way. Do you guys spend time like creating phone app games, or are you largely like PC kind of console game based?
Yeah, we're mostly PC and console. Mostly more artistic, narrative driven titles. And it's always hard to kind of sell the fact that we make video games. Whenever you tell someone that you make video games at all, right? Generally their response, especially if it's a mom, their response is, "Oh, I should keep you away from my kids because you're the one who's making the stuff that's wasting their time." And I think that's probably the largest restraint that we have. No matter what we do, even though we are aiming to create games to help other people, no matter what we do, they're still games and they're still creating gamers.
So you were mentioning on the walk from your booth over to the press room today that this is the first year that video games have been in the main exhibition floor. How has that changed the con experience for you guys this year?
Actually, I thought that was a really interesting thing that happened. I think the first day, as soon as the hall opened, a lot of people were kind of confused. They would see this and be like, "Oh, video games? That's not pop culture, right? Comic books are pop culture because that's normal, that's cool. But video games, that's a waste. That's time waster, right?" So we definitely get a lot of that kind of population in here. But then all it takes is for the kids to see it, and they're like, "This is what we can relate with." And then they would sit here, and you'll see parents who drop their kids off in our booth while they go do something
things,
else
yeah.
and stand in line for something. And then the kids would just stay here and just play it for like hours, and then they'll come back and be like, "Kids, come on, let's go." And they're like, "Great, we just babysat your kids for 2 hours." But honestly though, like it has been amazing. I mean, it feels amazing just to be accepted into pop culture for the first time, I guess, in Denver Comic Con. Like, for many years past, we were in the basement and we had to, kind of crawl our way out of there to try to do any kind of marketing, that we could.
They were literally like reinforcing the stereotype of gamers go in the basement and sit in front of TVs.
Exactly. I mean, our room, the video game room in years past had been dubbed the smelly room, because everyone would sit there, play board games, play video games, and it just, didn't.
Yeah, it got the fun.
Yeah, exactly. But this year, like we have a completely different outlook, and we're just really looking forward to what's to come as well.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that, they're trying to bring more of the pop culture into different parts of like the exhibition hall. I saw yesterday as I was walking around the exhibition hall, I saw board gamers too. Like, and people forget that like pop culture is literally just the things that are popular in our culture right now. And like you said, video games are a huge thing. Like I can't talk sports with the guys at work because I don't watch any sports because I just don't care. Like, it's not interesting to me. Sorry, sports listeners. Like, but they'll start talking about, "Oh, I was playing such and such or whatever." And, oh, yeah, I can relate to playing Final Fantasy 15. I can relate to Fallout, or, they play all the 2K games. I play the WWE 2K game, but I can have those conversations because I play video games, because it's popular in our culture and I'm not the only person that does it. So it's cool to see them like try to embrace more of popular culture than just movies and TV and comic books this year. It's been fun. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think video games are just going to continue to grow. I mean, you already see a lot of different video games in everyday applications, like achievements on Facebook about how many books you've read, or
right.
Whatever, like stuff like that. It's very much gamified, and I think this kind of gamer culture is going to become more and more transparent, and it's going to creep kind of into our daily lives as just how we live life.
Well, even I'm a fat guy trying to lose weight, so I have an app on my phone that tracks my steps, just sort of like a Fitbit. And what's the thing that motivates me? Beating the guy that I'm in competition with, or seeing that I'm in the top 9% of American males, that kind of thing is fun. I want to win at walking, which is ridiculous to say out loud, but is exactly what motivates me to do it.
Yeah,
so.
and in turn, you win a health as well, right?
Yeah.
And it's all it takes is just a leaderboard, which is the same thing that you see in Asteroids on a
right,
normal,
exactly,
like arcade cabinet. So, yep.
And I get to put my picture and my real name instead of just 3 letters.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Which was always DIK, just so you know. So on the way here, I was looking at your website, and I saw the trailer for The King's Bird. The game is beautiful looking. Like, it just... I like games like that. I played Alto's Adventure on my phone like forever, and I love that kind of like side scrolly, the momentum building games. Those are really fun to me. Can you tell me a little bit about like the design process of The King's Bird and like how that game came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have been working on that game for quite a while now. The King's Bird was very much inspired by games like Dust Force, Super Meat Boy, and Journey. We wanted to create a hardcore feeling game without it actually being so hardcore that people can't get into it. It's our way of making a game that can empower players, make them feel really good about themselves, and that's kind of our original intention. So the King's Bird, it looks really hard. It looks like you have to do all sorts of different maneuvers, but it's actually really easy to just pick up and play. Of course, I mean, we have like online leaderboards and all of that, so the really hardcore people can try to aim to, beat a faster.
Can try to beat everybody else.
Yeah, like a microsecond, and you can try to speed run it, try to get world records and stuff. But, for the average gamer who otherwise would look at games like Super Meat Boy and just be like, I could never get into this because it's so hard and it's so punishingly hard, we wanted to keep that momentum of, like, that smooth momentum of you just playing a game from beginning to end without having any frustration, and just feel like you're just constantly getting better and feeling like, wow, I'm so good at video games. Wow. Like we just want to give players that feeling.
I need to play that game so that I feel like, wow, I'm good at video games, because mostly I'm like, man, I suck at this.
Yeah. I mean, I think video games inherently teach you a lot of different things. Why not teach players to be more confident in themselves? Teach them to believe in their own abilities and believe in that the fact that they can continue growing as a gamer as well. And that's kind of our intention here.
I love that the ethos of like Serenity Forge is to like build people up and to like give them positive things, because there's so much gamer culture. And I don't mean like just overall gamer culture, but there's like this insidious nature in gamer culture where people are trash talking each other as they play Call of Duty and dragging each other down. I headshotted you 15 times, bitch. Like that kind of stuff. When my son is playing a video game, that kind of stuff bothers me coming from other people, because I'm like, dude, don't talk to my kid that way. That I feel like that you're gonna hurt his feelings, which he's tough. He doesn't care, but your intention is literally to say, here are positive things going on in your life. Here's a way to lift you up through video games. That's commendable, like really commendable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, we all have a very short and limited time here on Earth, right? And I feel like it's the duty of the artist to spread the message that you want to spread, right? Or at least pick the right one to spread. We are defined by what we do in life, and I think whatever waves we create, whatever externalities we put off, through our journey here in the world, will be what we be defined by. When I was 18, I almost died, and I feel like I was given a second chance, and I don't want to waste that chance. I want to make sure that now that I have a second chance, I can actually live my full life that I maybe didn't deserve, or maybe I wasn't supposed to have. And I want to make sure that I use this time for others and actually create good for society in whatever way I can. So
that's awesome. Well, Z, thank you so much for being on our show. Let all of our listeners know how they can find Serenity Forge, pick up your games, and play your gorgeous and engaging video games. They look awesome. So
yeah, absolutely. So you can find Serenity Forge on Twitter at Serenity Forge. Or on Facebook, just facebook.com/SerenityForge. Or you can find my personal Twitter as well, at Jinghua Yang. So the full spelling would be ZhenGhuaYang. It's kind of long and Chinese. So.
No, it's okay. Hey, I got pretty close to it when I was pronouncing it to myself, and then I was like, oh, he goes by Z. I don't have to figure this one out.
Yeah, that's exactly why I go by Z. Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the show again, man. We really appreciate it, and you're doing good work, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the show.